I won't stop till I hear him say,
Okay, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another CYPRX video breakdown. I have a very interesting video for you all today. We're going to be discussing the monetary reset, different forms that it could potentially come in. I'm also going to be displaying some video clips for you all and then breaking them down in detail as to what's going on behind this monetary reset that we are currently experiencing. If you all enjoy video breakdowns like this, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. These are very informative videos, and we ask that you do us a favor. And if you find that they provide you any form of value, copy the link of these videos and share them with a friend or family member. Now, this is going to kind of be a continuation of previous video breakdowns that I've made about the financial crisis, the debt crisis, the devaluation of the United States dollar, and the end of the petrodollar system. So if you haven't checked out any of our past video breakdowns, make sure that you go on our YouTube channel and check out our debt crisis playlist, where any of the videos that have to do with any of these talking points will be added to that playlist on a consistent basis. So before we jump into these couple of video clips that I have, I first want to explain to you what a monetary reset generally consists of and refers to. So a monetary reset generally refers to a significant change in the monetary system of a country or the global financial system. It can take various forms, but the goal is to typically address economic imbalances and restore confidence in the financial system, along with promoting economic growth. Now, if you don't already know or you're not aware, there is a massive amount of distortion in our financial system, a massive amount of distrust, where individuals really are starting to wake up to what's going on in our financial system. Now, one type of monetary reset is a currency revaluation or devaluation, which in turn involves adjusting the exchange rate of a country's currency to make it more competitive in international markets. A devaluation can make exports cheaper and more attractive, while making imports more expensive, which can help to rebalance a trade deficit. However, it can also lead to inflation and reduce purchasing power for consumers, which for us here in America, if we do ever experience the mass de-dollarization that is currently looming, would be bad for us. Another type of monetary reset is a debt restructuring or forgiveness. Now, you already have seen headlines sweep the news media this year alone that the United States is head over heels in its debt, which is interesting to say the least, surrounding everything that is brewing up right now. Now, debt restructuring or forgiveness, which involves reducing or eliminating the debt burden of a country or group of countries, this can be done through various means, such as negotiating new repayments terms or writing off portions of the debt. The goal is to typically reduce the burden of the debt servicing and promote economic growth by freeing up resources for investments. Now, this is where things are going to start to get interesting, and I'm going to kind of start to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole, because this would be a more radical form of monetary reset, which personally I think is going to happen and that we are on the brink of, and that is a currency reset, which involves replacing the existing currency with a new one. Now, I've covered this multiple times on past video breakdowns, specifically talking about the correlation between China and the United States, maybe potentially being China the new reserve currency. None of us know, nobody knows what the new reserve currency is going to be, but we know that we are on the brink of that financial change. Now, a currency reset can be done specifically to address hyperinflation, currency devaluations, or other economic crises. A new currency may be backed by a commodity, which is specifically something that we are going to go into detail via a tweet that I displayed to you guys just a couple of days ago, such as gold or silver, or by a basket of currencies to provide stability and promote confidence in the financial system. A global reset may involve the establishment of a new global currency. That is important to understand and pay attention to. In my personal opinion, these elite individuals know that they have been messing things up for the longest time and that it is the perfect time to completely switch everything that has been going on for the past 400 years and transition over into a new digital infrastructure alongside with replacing the United States dollar with a new global reserve currency. With that being said, you need to take into consideration that the implementation of a global monetary reset is a complex and politically challenging task, and it is not clear whether or when such a reset will occur. However, I personally believe that we are in the midst of that all taking place as I speak. With that being said, I want to take your attention over to a tweet that I put out to you all just a few days ago, breaking this down in a previous video breakdown in detail. Again, if you haven't checked that video out and you enjoy in-depth video breakdowns like this, talking about our monetary system, smash that thumbs up button. So here's the tweet that I put out to you all just a few days ago on February 16th, and I said, break away from all financial instruments, get out of debt. Everyone is already in virtual bankruptcy. Convert into real assets that have liquidity outside of the banking system, reduce your expenditures, increase your savings, and lower your taxable income while building up bartered reserves. Hard times are here and will only get worse. Preparing for this as time allows will only benefit you and your family members. So let's get into this. I have some video clips that I want to share with you all today, going into detail, backing what it is that I'm talking about in this specific video breakdown, and that is a global monetary reset. This is a video interview done by Kitco News, so shout out to Kitco News. Again, one of my most favorite and informative free news channels and platforms on the YouTube space. Sit back, relax, take a listen to what this individual interviewee has to say. Now, before I play these videos, they are a little bit lengthy, but they are jam-packed with lots of valuable information.
Buying gold at record rates. Now, you say all of these are just data points that if you connect them together, you see a narrative that points towards a global monetary reset. And it all started for you in 2017 when you saw that the Bundesbank, Germany, was repatriating its gold. So why don't we take it from there, Andy? Break down your thesis, joining those dots for us.
Sure, thank you. That's well done. That's a good roadmap. So it's true. You know, at the end of 2011, as the bull market started to head down into a bear market, by 2017 we saw capitulation on many levels, not only with the retail investor, but also the central banks. Central banks were selling their gold. It really never made a whole lot of sense to me. And by 2017, we were at really at the peak of the bear market in precious metals. And this was when Bitcoin was taking off. And there were a lot of people selling their gold and talks of central banks divesting of gold and investing in treasuries or income producing assets. And then out of nowhere, a story popped up that the Bundesbank had been trying to repatriate their gold for a few years, but started to really make a big deal of it in 2017. It caught my eye. Why would they want to repatriate their gold from the New York Fed in the midst of what seemed to be a movement away from precious metals and into other forms of investment? It was very interesting. They made such a big deal. And within a few weeks of that, you had the Bank of Turkey and the Bank of Austria and the Dutch National Bank and the Czech National Bank and the Bank of Poland. And all of these banks, the Bank of Hungary, they were all saying, send us our gold back, not just from the New York Fed, but also from the Bank of England. And so it began a movement that really caught my eye. And now in 2018, the following year, this really accentuated when those same banks bought more gold as a group than they did in the 60 years previously combined. Now I'm starting to get really interested and really aware of what was happening. 2019 comes along, those numbers jump by almost 100%, north of 90%. The accumulation of gold by these central banks, which, you know, was out of nowhere, really.
So something interesting to take away is that banks don't just do things for no reason. You saw how over a prolonged period of time, banks started to gain a higher interest in reaccumulating all of their gold. Again, pay attention to what's going on behind the scenes. There's always something happening behind the curtain. And with that being said, we'll get into a little tiny fundamental at the end of this as to why I truly believe in cahoots with this financial or monetary reset, why the banks were repurchasing gold and asking for their gold back.
About until shortly after 2021, 2020, the banks are still buying gold. And 2021 rolls around and we see the day that we leave Afghanistan in a very unharmonious way. Saudi Arabia, I think, at that point, signed the death warrant for the end of the petrodollar. The day we left Afghanistan or the day after, and I think there is no coincidence in the timing, Saudi Arabia announces a joint military cooperation agreement with Russia. I often ask,
Just to recap, leaving Afghanistan, deserting
deserting,
weapons, deserting allies,
Yes.
deserting personnel.
leaving our own servicemen and women behind enemy lines was something that would have been considered inconceivable in the United States that I grew up in. And I think that really signaled something to our allies and certainly to our foes. And, I ask people what makes the dollar the world reserve currency, and most people don't know. But in 1974, 3 years after we closed the gold window, Kissinger went to Saudi Arabia and struck a deal with the Saudi kingdom and said, hey, we'll protect you. But for that, you'll denominate oil globally in dollars. And they have through OPEC. And this has created a massive synthetic demand for the dollar for the last 50 years. Signaling a change in that by a joint military cooperation agreement with Russia was a huge, huge move that really got very little, if any, attention in the Western media. But now things are really starting to click in for me. And I'm starting to see not only global de-dollarization, but also groupings that are growing together, like all 13 of the OPEC producing countries on the Belt Road, like shortly thereafter, China and Nigeria, who also signed the same contract with Russia, selling their gold to China for the Petro Yuan bond, which is immediately convertible into gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. And this is how countries like Iran have sidestepped sanctions for quite some time, selling their oil to China for a bond that is immediately convertible into gold, and they take possession of it right off the Shanghai Gold Exchange. So these things are starting to speed up at this point, and I'm really starting to notice that there's a growing group of countries that are formulating around the BRICS that are, I think, coalescing against the dollar, the hypocrisy, the hegemony of the dollar. And you could see it, you could feel it, and you could watch all of the gold that was being sent eastward and the accumulation and the de-dollarization. 2022 rolls along and the weaponization of the dollar, as you mentioned, where I believe it's not the prerogative of the West to say who can and can't use the world reserve currency. It should be more for public opinion, not for the administrator of the currency to decide who can and can't use it. And it was that moment, and I often ask people, do you think this was intended? We have 130 trillion in debt, 31 trillion that's on balance sheet, and Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, which is 55 trillion underfunded in and of itself, and government military pensions, render us insolvent. Most of this debt accumulated at the lowest interest rates in human history. Was it intended? Did we want to pick a villain to create this great reset, to all of a sudden start the de-dollarization? And
so in my previous spiel, I had mentioned to you all the monetary reset, or a potential form of that, is a debt restructuring. Notice how he just mentioned the debt crisis that we are experiencing here in the United States. Now, also a term that he mentioned was de-dollarization, which is something that we've been talking about for the longest time on this channel. Like I said, if you haven't watched previous video breakdowns where we've broken this down into detail, go back and check those out. So you might be asking what can happen to your money in a bank if there is a de-dollarization process taking place. Well, de-dollarization in terms typically refers to a process by which a country or economy reduces its reliance on the US dollar and increases the use of its own currency or other currencies in the international trade and transactions. During the de-dollarization process, there may be changes in the value of the local currency and the foreign currencies held by banks and individuals. So if you have money in a bank in a country that is undergoing a de-dollarization process, i.e. the United States, there are several things that could happen to your money, and people are not awake and aware to this because the normal, every average day person, number one, is not studying this information, nor do they even know that it exists. They think they live in a perfect world that can't be touched. They also think that banking systems in the United States, or banks in general in the United States, are the safest places to put your money. That is far from the truth. With that being said, here are a couple of possibilities that could happen. Again, these are realistic possibilities. Nobody really knows the outcome of what's going to happen with this de-dollarization process. But one thing that could happen, the exchange rate of the United States dollar could fluctuate. Number two, restrictions on currency exchanges. During a de-dollarization process, a government may impose restrictions on the exchange of a local currency for US dollars or other currencies. So that means, let's say, for example, there is a massive de-dollarization process and you're overseas trying to use the United States dollars, maybe potentially, overseas governments, or whatever the case may be, may put a restriction on US dollars. And the biggest thing that I think for consumers here in the United States and every average day citizens would be bank failures. Most individuals have no idea how unsafe their money is in a bank. Economic instability and uncertainty during a de-dollarization process could lead to a bank failure, particularly the big US banks that have a significant exposure to US dollar denominated assets. If banks fail, then most likely your deposits in the bank are not going to be safe. You're not going to be able to go withdraw your money. And we've seen this happen across the board in many other countries like Cyprus, like Lebanon, like Nigeria right now, where they've done this massive CBDC rollout and people can't access their money. So it is 110% possible. And you all can start to see this common denominator, which if you have been listening to these video clips is gold. There is a massive interest in gold. And like I said, the banger at the end of this video breakdown, I'm going to read a little bit of a fundamental that is going to show you all why it is that I told you all in this specific tweet to get into real assets that have liquidity outside of the banking system. So let's continue. I have one more video clip before I take you over to some fundamentals that I have to share with you all. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this last video clip.
See this bifurcation of the global monetary system.
Absolutely.
Break that down in further detail. How does this play out from here?
Well, you have all of these countries joining the BRICS that you put them all together along with the Shanghai Corporation Organization and the Belt Road. You're talking north of 80% of human population. And all it would take, now you have to remember, we're coming from a period of time where asset prices were blown sky high over the last several years with more money being created in the last 3 than in the history of the country preceding it. A lot of that money found its way into assets, and you have the misallocation and the distortions that are created by this. All it would take would be for Saudi Arabia to stand up on the stage, as they just told the folks at the Davos conference that we're now going to consider taking other currencies for oil. We've already been told that the BRICS currency would be pegged to gold or to commodities, and the assumption being gold being one of the commodities. I think all it would take would be Saudi Arabia to say to the West, thanks for the memories. It's been great. We appreciate it. But we're going to open up oil purchases in other currencies, not just dollars, maybe euros and ruble and rupee and gold. And all of a sudden, bang, all of the countries that have had to hold dollars for the last 50 years no longer really have any interest in holding them. And if they all start to dump dollars, and I think it would happen quickly, where they would all dump dollars, you have a tsunami of inflation hitting the shores of the West that would immediately create a spike in interest rates to compensate for the loss of purchasing power. This is how we see a great reset, as interest rates spike in relation to a crashing dollar, which then is inversely correlated to asset prices that have gone stratospheric over the last few years, and I would argue irrationally. And as interest rates spike and this inverse correlation hits the shores, stocks, bonds, and real estate, along with the crashing dollar, all collapse at the very same time.
So if that, as an investor or as an individual that lives in the United States, I mean, this is going to be a massive just effect over the entire globe. But if that doesn't send, I mean, shivers up your spine, I don't know what else will. As an influencer, I'm just here attempting to provide you all with this information so that way you all can take it upon yourself to do research, to attempt to protect yourself. With all of those video clips out of the way, real fast, I want to take your attention over to a fundamental that was provided to us by one of our CYPRX researchers on the CYPRX research team. And interestingly enough, this came out on the 31st of January, 2023. As the IMF raises hopes for global economic recovery, what does this mean for crypto? It talks about the potential of crypto seeing another bull run. If we go down here, this is just the most interesting part. Now, we heard the individual in the interview mention the BRICS nations. Well, here you can see that the IMF sees growth slowing in 2023. However, most major economies are expected to see GDP expansion. Check this out. China and India, alongside Russia and Brazil, which are the BRICS nations, see the most expansion in 2023. Interesting how the IMF is predicting that, along with this whole global monetary reset potentially on the brink of taking place, alongside of the BRICS nations taking place, right? Now, I mentioned to you all Nigeria and this whole CBDC rollout. I want you all to take it upon yourself to look at this chart real fast. When you are thinking about this digital revolution and you think that it's not coming or it's not happening or it's not possible, let's just take a look at the status on CBDC progress in 109 countries. 9% are launched, 14% of them are piloted, 23% are in the development phase, 41% are in the research phase. So this alone right here is over 80% of the globe in this digital transformation. Do you all understand that, right? There is less than 20% of the globe that is either canceled, has an other opinion, or is inactive. So when you are reverting back to some things that I've said in past video breakdowns, like having liquid assets that operate outside of the banking system, take it upon yourself to do research on what you want your investment portfolio to consist of. But for me, if you've been paying attention to some of the video breakdowns, one of those assets for myself is gold and silver. Now, this was also provided to us by one of the CYPRX students who's part of the CYPRX research team. This very interesting website where it specifically talks about gold investments and gold investing. If we scroll down to the bottom, it reads, and this will be the last thing before I leave you for today's video breakdown. If you all enjoyed this and it provided some form of value to you all, again, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe. We do appreciate the love and the support. Share this video with a friend or family member, and make sure that you all go back and check out our entire debt crisis video so that way you are staying up to date as we trail along and talk about this specific or these specific topics, So here down at the bottom, it reads, stock, bonds, and other securities. There is a risk in everything. If things go wrong, prices can fall. But crisis or not, gold bars will always hold value. Central banks such as DNB, therefore, traditionally have a lot of gold in-house. Now, to revert back to the video, remember the individual was saying that DNB, German banks, European banks, okay, all these banks started to ask for their gold back or buy gold at record-breaking levels. It goes on to say, gold is the ultimate nest egg, the confidence anchor for the financial system. If the entire system collapses, the gold stock provides collateral to start over. Gold gives confidence in the strength of central bank balance sheets that make you feel safe. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you all enjoyed this video breakdown. Go back, check out our debt crisis playlist. I will leave you all with that. As always, be cognizant, be aware, make sure that you're doing your own personal research. And as always, I will see you all in the next video breakdown.
I won't stop till I hear him say